Hi friends, so today we are going to talk about time, and we are going to learn how we can tell time using a clock that we usually see in school. You may have some of these clocks around your house. You can check as soon as this video is over. Maybe you can look around and see if you can find one. But this clock is round and it has numbers all around the side. So this is a clock that I drew that kind of looks like the clock in school. It has a 12 at the top and a 6 down at the bottom. And then starting next to the 12, there's a 1, 2, 3, and it goes all the way around, counting up until we get to 11, back up to 12. So this is the clock that we are going to learn how to tell time on. Now on a clock, there are 2 arrows, and those arrows, we call them hands. We call one hand the hour hand and one hand the minute hand. So that means one arrow points to what hour it is, and the other arrow points to what minute it is. So I'm going to give you a little example of the 2 arrows that you're going to see. So over here, I have a clock with 2 arrows. One arrow is shorter and one arrow is longer. So the arrow pointing to the 3, which is shorter, is our hour hand. The hour hand is always shorter. The longer one is the minute hand. So that means the hour hand pointing to the 3 is showing that it is 3 o'clock. Now I'm going to show you another clock that I drew on my whiteboard, and the shorter arrow, or the shorter hand, is pointing to a different number now. So we know that the short hand is the hour hand. So it is pointing to the number 8. So that means it's telling us it is 8 o'clock because we're looking at the short hand. If we look now, the short hand has changed and isn't pointing to the 8 anymore. It's now pointing to the 2. So that means it is 2 o'clock because the short hand is showing us the hour, which is 2 o'clock. So when you hear some people talking about time, they might say it's 10:30. Now the first number, 10, is the hour, and the 30 is the minutes. So that's why there's 2 hands on a clock. 10 is the hour, which is where the hour hand points to, and the 30 is where the minute hand points to. But the minutes are a little trickier because there's not a number 30 on our clock. It only goes up to 12. So I'm going to explain to you how we figure out the minutes on our clock. So if we look at this clock right here, the short hand, which is the hour hand, is pointing to the 3. So that means it's 3 o'clock. Now looking at the long hand, this is our minute hand. When that long hand is pointing to the 12, that means 0 minutes have gone by. So that means it's 3 o'clock with no minutes. So you can just say it's 3 o'clock. If you look at this clock, here's another example of when the minute hand is pointing to the 12. Now we mentioned that when the minute hand is pointing to the 12, that means that 0 minutes has gone by. So we only have to worry about the short hand. So that means it is 4, because the hour hand is pointing to the 4. It is 4 o'clock. There are no minutes yet because the long hand, the minute hand, is at the 12. Now if you look at this clock, the short hour hand is pointing to the 10, which means it's 10 o'clock. But the minute hand isn't pointing to the 12 anymore, it's pointing to the 6. So when the minute hand, the long hand, points to the 6, that means 30 minutes has gone by. So if a clock looks like this with the short hand pointing to the hour and the minute hand on the 6, the time would be 10:30 because it's pointing to the 6. Now here's another example of the minute hand pointing to the 6, and the hour hand isn't pointing to the 10 anymore, it's pointing to the 1. So the hour is 1, and when the minute hand is pointing to the 6, we remember that 30 minutes has gone by. So the time is 1:30. Now I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to see if you can figure out what time this is showing. So the shorthand, the hour hand, is pointing to the 9, and the minute hand, the long hand, is pointing to the 12. So that means the hour is 9, and the minutes, what does 12 mean? Who remembers? If you said 0 minutes, good job. So that means it is 9 o'clock. There are no minutes yet because it's pointing to the 12. Now, our hour hand is still pointing to the 9, but our minute hand moved to point to the 6. So if we remember, if the minute hand is pointing to the 6, that means how many minutes has gone by? If you said 30, you are correct. 30 minutes has gone by because it's now pointing to the 6. So our time here is 9:30 because the minute hand is pointing to the 6. Now I'm going to show you a clock that I drew, and I want you to think about it and see if you can figure out what time this clock is showing. The short hand is the hour hand, and the long hand is the minute hand. If you said it is 8:30, you are correct. Now see if you can find a clock that looks like this in your house.